talking about obstacles, oh my God, I had to overcome so many, but I think I'm not unique, right? Because every, like, let's say, successful people or a successful person or anyone who wants to achieve, something, bigger than just average, I think will have to overcome obstacles. So I'm not unique in that, but still, my story is unique as everybody else's story, right? So let me try to just give you a little bit of my Italy story because I have a big, like, a 5 years of my life I have spent as an illegal, no, just the first year was an illegal immigrant in Italy because 22 years ago Romania wasn't part of Europe. So I had to, in order for me to be able to go to Italy and work hard there, because I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe I could do anything else in my country. So after I finished my college, I wanted to go to Italy, and in order for me to be able to do that, I had to do it illegally because we weren't part of Europe, and so as many other young people from my country, we just went to conquer the world in West Europe, right? So I went there and I worked so hard. I remember I was I was probably depressed at some point, but I didn't know about the symptoms as of depression. I learned about it uh, 15 years after, when I went to college again to study psychology. And then I remembered about it and I was like, oh yeah, that had to be depression. Because, I was so sad and I was working so much. I remember I was working like 16 hours per day in restaurants, cleaning toilets, making pizza. When I got promoted, that was like my promotion, because I wanted to always do better in my life. So yeah, long story short, I had to overcome that period of my life as an immigrant. And I remember a lot of stories, but maybe two of them are relevant for our talk here. So I remember one time when it was my birthday, and at the same day, I know that seems unbelievable, but at the same day, I lost my job and my place to stay. Something happened, they were related, and I lost them. And so I remember I was in this tram going nowhere and crying. And my mother called me to wish me happy birthday. And I didn't want to tell her what had happened, but how mothers are, they just feel something is wrong. And so my mother felt something was wrong and she asked me what was wrong. And I remember I told her, and she said, we are poor, but where five people can eat, you can eat too. So come back, come home. And I remember that very second, I knew I wasn't going to go back home. And it wasn't about home, it wasn't about going back to Romania. It was about never going back to my past, never going back to the life I used to live. And it was just an internal decision for me to always move forward to my dream. Maybe it's a lot to say my dream because I didn't know what my dream was, but I knew I had to move forward. I knew I had to do that next step. And, recently I came up with this uh, motto for me, and I also teach it to others. It says, the way you reach impossible dreams is by doing possible steps towards the impossible dream. So just look in front of you and see what's the next possible step. Because sometimes we want to do, amazing things, and that's great, but because we don't believe in ourselves and because we are not aware of how we could do it, we might give up. Instead, the strategy is, you have something in front of you that you can do. And so that was my moment where I was like so certain that I was never going back. And then, it was a process. It's not that everything changed internally, but nothing changed externally, right? It wasn't a miracle. I had to find a job, I had to find a place to stay. I struggled a lot still, but I knew that was a turning point for me. And then after a while, my sister came, and I remember we were working together in the same restaurant. And because I had this savior mentality, I wanted to save everybody, and I was a warrior and a savior at the same time. But also, I played the victim a lot. I was probably moving between all this with my mentality. But what uh, that mentality drove me to essentially send all my money to my family. So I wasn't buying anything for me. I was just, and I was convincing my sister to do the same, because we were like, okay, we work in this restaurant, we have food, and we have a place to stay, so we don't need any money. We are here to work and save our, help our families. And so we are sending all the money. And I remember this moment where we were waiting for the bus to come, and there was this gelateria, the gelato place, the ice cream, Italian gelato. It's amazing. It's the best gelato in the world. So, and I love gelato. I love pistachio gelato. And I wanted a gelato, and my sister had 3 euros. I remember that that was our last money. And she was like, tomorrow is another day. Let's just buy this gelato. And we bought it. And it was just one gelato for both of us. And so I remember how good it was. It was delicious. But, I took a spoon, and my sister took a spoon of it, and then I dropped it on the ground. So it was a tragedy. Um, I know it seems ridiculous, but that was like a real tragedy. I started to cry in the middle of the street. And I remember people were watching us. My sister, she's stronger than me. She, she has a great, emotional intelligence. And at the beginning, she started to laugh, but then she hugged me and started to cry with me. And so we were crying over that gelato. And I was like, that shouldn't happen. This is not like normal. And, this will never happen again. So that was another turning point for me, where I decided for prosperity. I decided that, I deserve more, and my family deserve more. And we are not born for survival, to just survive. And, I'm not a victim. And it was a process still. Like, I remember that was only the first year in Italy. We spent 4 more years in Italy, but all those years I grew. I i it was like a university for me. It was like a growth program for me. I knew I was going somewhere. I was still working hard a lot, but I knew I was going somewhere. I was in a research mode and I was looking for opportunities. Um, and yeah, those were some real struggles. But then after 5 years, I finally found an opportunity, and I went back to Romania, started a business, found the personal development field, read the first personal development books, and found a new word. And so I still struggled because I remember in my 7 years of building this network marketing business, I started from scratch again, right? Because it was a new country again, and it was a new business, and I had no money, and so I had to build a business. I had to prove myself. It was like a leadership laboratory. Network marketing businesses are great from this perspective because nobody listens to you, nobody follows you if you are not a good leader. You can't do you can do positional leadership. You can't force people to obey, to follow you. And so it was a very it was uh, yeah, as I said, a leadership laboratory for me. But I struggled a lot with growing myself, and then I struggled a lot with leadership environments. So I remember, it's about lack of awareness, I think. But at the beginning, I was amazed by all these, leaders and speakers on stages and books, and everything was happening there. And it was great. But, sometimes in some environments, you grow, you grow, you grow, and sometimes you can't grow anymore. John Maxwell speaks about this in his 21 leadership laws when he speaks about the law of the lead. When sometimes they put a lead on you, and sometimes us as leaders, if we don't pay attention, we can put a lead on our people. And I'm very aware of it, and I'm trying to always grow myself to not put a lead on my people, on my team, on the people I people that follow me. But I remember I went through that challenge too, because I was one of the top leaders in that. I became one of the top leaders in that business in after 5 or 6 years, and I just knew I had to change. I knew there was another. It was time for me to grow again. It was time for me to start all over again, because I was doing that business, but it wasn't about building a network marketing business. It was about building myself. And so through this process, I discovered what I really, really loved. And I loved to teach, I loved to speak. And so I remember I struggled a lot with this transition again. After 7 years, I had to do the transition, and it was painful because all my following now was all my people, all my everybody who knew me was in my network marketing business, and now I had to start all over and start a new business, and nobody knew me, and I didn't even know anything about the coaching industry, the speaking industry. I was following speakers on stages, but for me that wasn't a profession. That was like, if you are involved in a business, you get to listen to some speakers on some stages, but you don't get to make money to speak. I mean, I know for you guys this can seem like really weird, because in Romania the speaking and coaching industry wasn't developed 7 years ago when I started.
So you
Almost
started it
8.
7 years ago, this business,
Yeah, I
and you
started.
have 100,000 followers?
Yeah. So I started in, so I became a John Maxwell team in 2013, and I started in 2014. I could say I started to do it, right?
Wow.
And yes, do you want me to speak about how I have built it, or
That's
Well,
great. And the next question we were going to ask you is, and this might answer that question. Your journey has brought you into different countries, and 3 of those countries had different languages. What have you learned about being inclusive, being included, even though we're all different?
yeah, that's a great like topic to talk about. I think we built our identity through social comparisons. We cannot not compare ourselves with other people. That's what I believe, and my studies in psychology confirmed that. So this is the only way we can build our identity. Think of this question: if you were born in an isolated island, let's say, alone, would you consider yourself tall or short, beautiful or ugly, you know, smart or stupid? And the answer is you don't know, and I don't know. It wouldn't make sense to label us, or to, if we hadn't someone else to compare us to. So we wouldn't have a meaning attached to these words. I wouldn't have someone else to compare it to. So the social comparison exists, and it is a part of we are and how we construct our identity, how we view the world and everything. But the problem with this is how we compare ourselves to others, how we do it. And there are so many shortcuts and biases that we have, and that we're not even aware of. So let me share with you a story about it. Okay, I was, and that again, that happened probably 10 years ago, but I was coming back from um, training on it was on the psychology of fear, because I remember I learned a lot about the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, the neocortex. I remember I was fascinated about the fight or flight system, the amygdala, and how that works, and all that. I was amazed. It was a 1-day training, and I was coming back. I was driving my car. I had a small, black, and ugly car back then, and it was raining, and it was midnight, and it was Romania. So the streets are not like in the United States. Long story short, I shouldn't have drove with velocity, with height, but I was. So I was so excited listening to this speaker on a CD player, and suddenly a big black wolf showed up in front of my car. The next second, my amygdala probably worked uh, for me, and I pressed the, how do you call it? I pressed the, oh, I don't remember that, but
Great.
the brake. Yes, I pressed the brake, and I had this accident. 1 minute after, a car, and I labeled it like probably this is an American car, because it was something between a bus, a small bus, and a truck. It was yellow, I remember, and the lady uh, came to me, and I remember she asked me if was okay, and she said, let me help you, I will help you. But the only thing I could think about was the man was inside the car, and I was like, why doesn't he help me? But there was no time for analyzing this. And another car, a Romanian car, a very old communist Romanian car, stopped, and 5 gypsy people um, came to us. Now, we have a minority of gypsy people in Romania. And the stereotype about gypsy people is not very positive. The stereotype is that, that gypsy people are not good people. Unfortunately, this is a stereotype. So what do you think I felt that moment? I felt fear again. And that's the thing. If you would ask me anything about stereotypes and minorities and what were my thinking, thoughts, and feelings about it, I was like, me? I don't discriminate anyone. I'm an educated person. I went to college to study political science. I don't discriminate anyone. But we have these shortcuts. We have these unconscious biases. They don't lie. So I felt fear. Remember, they came, five of them, and they were very nice, and they said, hey, what happened, let me help you. And they just took my small car and put it on the side, and they were like, are you okay now? Did you take anything? You have to close the car right now in front of us to make sure everything is fine. Close the car right now. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then and they said, you go with the lady. And they disappeared. They were like five angels to me. That was a big, big, big lesson for me, for for how we really act in in harmony with our unconscious beliefs and biases, right? So long story short, because this is a longer story, but I went with the lady, and inside their car, they had like a baby stroller, and I was like, where is the baby? And there was no baby, but I didn't have time to think about it, because I had to arrange my next steps. And so I had to call my boyfriend, tell him what happened, and find a place to stay. And in about 15 minutes, we stopped, and the lady helped me again. And I was, why don't he help me? And so I remember I told her, thank you so much. And since we have this saying in Romania that says, uh, God bless you, and I will pray for your health. And so I remember her touching my arm and looking directly in my eyes, and saying, I so want or wish your prayers would come true. Because 2 years ago we had an accident, and my husband lost both his legs. So they had this car that was uh, built for people like him to drive. So again, that was the second lesson for me. I was judging, I was assuming, I was pretending, expecting, right? Without without knowing the whole story. And yeah, that's what I have to say. I think that's enough to say about how we attach meanings according to our internal beliefs, how we judge, how we make comparisons, how we make assumptions. But the reality is that people are unique, people are different, but at the same time we are similar. And psychologists have studied emotions, and they discovered that emotions are universal and recognizable everywhere. We all feel fear, joy, anger, happiness in the same way. If I show you, you are from the United States, right? I am from Romania. If I show you and someone from Japan the same picture, pictures expressing emotions, you would be able to recognize fear or happiness, and I would be able to recognize the same things. And we all need the same things to be happy. According to Martin Seligman, the father of the positive psychology, we all need 5 things. And I will, if you allow me, I will just speak a little bit about this, because I think this is very important. Is, you know, evidence based, science science based. So we need positive emotions. This is the first thing we need. We need to feel positive emotions, not only, moments of happiness every now and then when we buy a new house or a new car, but we need to be able to feel calm, peace of mind, good energy, enthusiasm, um, every day, possibly as much as possible during the day. Not only that, because we also need negative emotions. It's not true that we don't need them. Picture that. If somebody that you care about dies and you are happy, there's something wrong with you. You need to be sad. You need that. It's healthy, right? So, but we need positive emotions. And then we need to be engaged. That's the second thing. We need moments in the flow. Like when I talk right now, I feel I'm in the flow. There is only one way that stops me being in the flow, and sometimes it's that I have to think of my words, my English. But other than that, I feel like I'm very engaged. I love what I do. I love what I talk about, and we need that to be happy. In order to be fulfilled, be happy, we need to be engaged. We need to find at our workplaces things that we love to do, so that we can be engaged, not only motivated. We need this internal motivation, not only the external, the rewards motivation thing, right? So that's the second. The third is we need to have good relationships with others. And I talked about it when I said, about comparisons and stuff like that. But we only can live with other people, and everything in our life is related to other people. Now, we can be introvert or extrovert. Like, for example, I am an introvert person, so I love being by myself too, because I love reading and stuff like that. But I couldn't imagine a life and or a business without having, partners, collaborators, teams, people, friends, people around me, a great network of friends that I know support me, and I support them. And so we need that. It's part of our being. And then we need meaning in life. That's the fourth thing. We need to feel that we are doing something that's beyond just results, right? Or measurable results, and bigger than us, right? And then we need accomplishment. That's what Western culture call success, achievement, success. We need to check some you know results, and that's fine, but that's only one part. So every human being needs all this, and I think that includes all of us. That's what makes us humans. And the other is just some difference. I mean, we the way we try to obtain all this might be different, and it's fine. Our abilities, our skills are different. Our personality type is different. Our upbringing, our culture, our beliefs, our values, our skin, our, whatever. But we will try to obtain these things. Uh, we have no difference fundamentally. studies have showed this. When I was reading today about, the difference between women and men, for example, that women have the brain a little bit bigger, but it's because they are bigger than uh, women physically. No other difference. They haven't discovered other differences, but if you put 30 men and just one woman in a room, and you give them science of or math problem to solve, the stereotypes and the biases about it could affect the result. So the way we frame everything matters, but there are no differences, between fundamentally between us humans. So yeah, I believe what I found is that it begins at the end of the day with the self-awareness, who we are, or what is our personality type, what are our strengths, what we love to do, and the self-acceptance, especially when it comes to assumptions. Sometimes we make assumptions about us because we don't accept ourselves. I remember when I was in Italy, one of my problems was that one. And not only in Italy. In Italy, I was, part of a minority. So I remember I was discriminating myself more than they were discriminating me, because I was isolating me because of my assumptions, my biases. And then I remember minorities between them were discriminating each other in the workplace sometimes. I'm not saying that the majority wasn't, everything was perfect, because but it's about how people, individuals, relate to each other. And I remember that happened to me in my country, because as a village girl, I went to Bucharest to study. And I remember I was feeling so inferior just because I had all kinds of, programming in my head. And I was isolating myself, but they weren't discriminating me. I remember one of my colleagues, she was from Bucharest, and she was inviting me at her place. She had internet. That was a big deal. That was something new everywhere in the world 22 years ago. And she had it, and she was inviting me, and I was like, no, I didn't want to go, because I felt I wasn't um, welcome there, because of my thinking. I mean, my interpretation of an eventual, my interpretation of what could could happen was bigger than the reality because in reality everything was fine. I'm not saying that everything is fine everywhere. I'm not saying that the problem doesn't exist. I'm saying that on both parts, it's more about how we interpret what happens than the differences in itself. It's in themselves. That's what I'm saying.
Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners that they can use to take action today?
Yeah, there are a lot of things, but I think regardless of what you believe about you, I think I think the most important thing is to act in harmony with your dream, in harmony with what you believe. No, not what you believe, what you feel you would love to do, even if the dream is not very clear. Because one of the things that helped me very much was this burning desire, right? So I didn't believe I could do it, but I wanted. So I wanted it so much. So I believe when the desire is bigger than the fear and the lack of confidence, the fear has no power. So basically what I want to say is try to understand what is the direction you want to go, even if it's not very clear. And then do your next step, even if you are afraid, even if you don't believe you can do it. Because, we have, and even if you want to make it perfect, I should add, even you are like one of those perfectionists that say, I don't do it because I want to learn I want to make it perfect. I still have to study a little bit. I still have to, I don't know, polish that thing. Just do it, because if I learned something in this life, I learned that in order for you to do it well, you have to allow yourself to do it imperfectly, right? And so it's a process. You go there and you do your next step, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's fine. And the next time it's going to be better and better and better. And I know it seems like cliche, but so many people don't do it because they just want to make it perfect. So that's my if you my last, I could share so much more, but there are a few things that are essentials. Like one other thing would be to use your imagination and build different scenarios of your future, so that you can familiarize yourself with what you want to do. This is a psychology technique, a cognitive behavioral technique, if you want, that will allow you to um, build to build what you're afraid of in your mind, so that when you go and do it, you don't do it for the first time. You do it for the, 100 times, because you had done it before in your mind. I use it a lot with people I coach, and it's also funny, but it's called imagery in psychology, and it's very known as a technique. I think that's something that everyone should do and everyone could do in order to move forward and do their next step towards their dream. Otherwise, we can always do the same thing as yesterday or today, and stay in our comfort zone. But I don't think people who watch this want to do this, want to stay in the comfort zone. So yeah, that would be my last word.
Thank you, Daniela. We appreciate you. That was amazing.
Thank
And
you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's going to be amazing. And thank you for doing it, because it's so,
yes,
uh,
it's
you know,
needed.
yeah, needed. Exactly. That's the word.
And this recording will be saved.
Yes.